Hey folks, welcome back. Here we are. The shop's changed a lot in the past month since the last video came out. We have all of the steel done. We have all the framing done. We built the electrical room and bathroom upstairs. We buttoned up everything on the downstairs conference room. We put sheathing on top so it can support the HVAC equipment as well as any storage we might need to put there. Same thing on the upstairs utility room area. We created everything to be structurally strong enough to support mechanical units above it. We're going to be insulating everything to make sure that we can try to reduce noise from the machines as much as possible. And we've really spent so much time trying to get all that dialed in and perfectly completed so that our inspection is just very smooth. We also went through and put all the nailers in that we will need for intersections where walls tee in together and you need support on either edge for sheetrock drywall. And that's all completed as far as I can see. I told the drywallers when they get started, which hopefully will be here next week after we get the inspection done, that we are going to be on site so we can just toss that stuff in as they need. They don't have to slow down do it themselves. We got the place insulated, at least all of the exterior walls. That was actually a surprisingly simple and quick process. We just got a few helpers to come out, bought a whole bunch of insulation, and it was less than 2 days work for 4 guys. So that's pretty incredible. What a transformation that is. It's so much quieter, so much less road noise. The temperature internally varies much less, even though we still don't have heat. But it's really starting to feel well defined in here with all the framing done. I can't wait to see the sheetrock in. That's going to be the next big step, to have white walls. And that's where you're going to see so much contrast between all the concrete bits, the steel bits, and then just the stark white flat walls. And that's kind of a defining characteristic in the Arlington shop that we absolutely want to replicate here. Outside of the framing and the structural stuff that we've completed, behind me we're about to start putting in the handrails to make sure that people aren't going to fall off the mezzanine. I believe that's kind of an important deal. It's going to be the exact same as the previous shop. It's going to have steel, angle iron, and flat bar that we're going to run through tension cable with the appropriate spacing so that nobody can climb through and fall out. And that should be the last of the steel we have to order. We've already ordered all the steel for trim. The bases and the casing all around the shop are all steel. We use steel angle to wrap around anywhere where drywall meets concrete. So there's gonna be a lot of little steel details as well as the big I-beams, and we have all that on site. We've had the electricians plugging away this entire time, running all of the lines to every room, every outlet, and they've done a great job. They've been very patient. We have some very specific requests, especially when it comes to the lighting and where all of the outlets are going to support the various pieces of equipment that we need. And they've just plugged away, a couple days a week, 3 days a week. They'll stay with us, and we will actually be pretty hands-off other than the specific details we need. Everything else is just on the plan for them. And then big step, we got the heavy 4-gauge wire run from the outside electrical room into the space, up to the mezzanine, and into the shutoff switch, which runs into the transformer. The transformer is going to take that 240 that's coming into the building, reduce it down to the 120, 110 that we need in here. I'm not an electrician, that may have been incorrect, but has to go through the transformer to reduce the voltage. And then that's gonna shoot on over to feed our panels. And then next week, we're gonna be putting in the last few whips of electricity that are gonna run to our mechanical units, and they're going to start running breakers. which is crazy because then all we need is to put outlets in and we have power everywhere in the building. We'll be able to flip lights on and do all sorts of really fun and useful things when we have full bore electricity in here. Now, we have always had a temporary supply of electricity, which has been very helpful. That's allowed us to run and grinders and charge batteries and charge the scissor lift and all the other equipment that we need. But the lighting, you can kind of see it behind me, but I'll do a close up. There's a lot of progress made there. Josh has just been very delicately moving about, putting all of the various levels of suspended lighting with different bulbs throughout the space. And it's very important that it is done artistically. That's why I can't do it, because I am a non-artistic individual. But it's going to allow us to have this like very unique lighting in this building. And it's one of the many features that stands out and contrasts us from other coffee shops in the area. It's a key aesthetic. And he's done a great job. And it's not easy work. It's all overhead. You're having to drill into concrete and anchor everything in and carefully measure. You're working on this we got a tiny scissor lift. I should have got a bigger one, but we're somewhat constrained by what will fit through the front door. There's nowhere we can really blow out a wall or something to roll in bigger equipment, so we really can only bring stuff in that I think is 96 inches tall. So that's really hampered us on how big of a machine we can get, but it is working. And he's just been incredible, very patient and diligent to get all the lighting in and looking excellent. Outside of that, we have plumbers back on site. They haven't been here for a while since they did the first rough in. But now we're running all of the water through the space to make sure that we have the appropriate filtered water to all of the fresh water sources that'll be used for cooking, the espresso machine, the drip coffee, any of the prep sinks where we could be prepping food items has to have filtered water, and we're running a main filtration system. They're setting up our tankless water heater. They're running all the stub outs for the bathrooms, and there's just a lot of water, and it's a compact space. We designed everything to really focus all the plumbing in one area, but because of that, space is at a premium. So between the electric, the plumbing, and the mechanicals, everybody's kind of fighting for space. So we're about to probably be at loggerheads in a couple areas, especially above the downstairs bathrooms. We have a drop ceiling, and that drop ceiling is going to contain a bunch of everything. The electric's running through there. The plumbing vents are running through there. There's going to be water lines running through there. There's going to be duct work for the mechanicals running through there. And all of it has to start down there, flow up, and then come up through our utility rooms and branch back out, so that we can really conceal as much of that as possible and keep from hampering the seating area up here. So big progress there. Same thing with the HVAC. We've bought all that equipment. It's coming in on site. I'm recording this the day after Christmas, so Monday morning it'll be rolling in, and that'll be another big phase, right? The HVAC equipment is no small part of this project. We're gonna have two 10-ton units. One 10-ton unit servicing sort of the main seating area, another 10-ton unit that's servicing under the mezzanine and on top of the mezzanine. That unit's got to get split and then run through ductwork that we're trying to conceal as much as possible or use for aesthetic value. All of it's very well thought out and detailed to try to optimize for aesthetics without losing function. You'll see that oftentimes in spaces, the HVAC is kind of an afterthought, right? Just runs right through the middle of a space or whatever. And yes, that does serve sort of an industrial feel vibe, but at the end of the day, if there's too much of it, it becomes like an overwhelming component of the aesthetic. So we can't really help it out in the main area. There's gonna be a big trunk of ductwork that runs through there and disperses throughout the area. But we're really trying to conceal it as much as possible on the upstairs mezzanine, because we imagine that's where a lot of the ceremonies, we're likely to host a lot of weddings. They host a lot of weddings at the Arlington location, so we're hoping to do the same thing here with special events. So we want it to be a very pretty space. We want it to stand out. So that's why we're trying to keep as much square footage up here as possible, build our little stage tucked in against the wall, to take up as little footprint but still be prominent, and hide the ductwork and hide the HVAC and do everything possible to make it such a unique space that people want to come up here and host special events. Big deal for us. So yeah, all the mechanical work is well in progress. I'm hoping we'll be done with the plumbing next week. We'll have the HVAC started, electrical should be done next week. And then we'll be pretty much ready for all of our mechanical inspections, our framing inspection, our structural inspection, our insulation inspection. And once all that's complete, hopefully we are only 2 weeks away from starting drywall. And that drywall process is going to be another solid couple weeks. Since the last video, we also built the whole bar. I think there might be a little bit of detail in the previous video, but we really spent a lot of time making sure that all the equipment was going to fit right where it needed to go. The espresso machine is going to be immediately in front of the front door when you walk in. So you walk in and first thing you're going to see is a barista waving back at you saying, "Come get some coffee and pastries." It's got a really unique aesthetic. It's kind of like this big horseshoe with a center island. And the finishes are going to be, you guessed it, concrete. We're gonna have a concrete top and a concrete front. There's gonna be a little bit of steel accents in there, mostly used to transition from one piece of concrete to another. That's gonna be a really interesting project. We're gonna pour it all on the floor and just stand it up. Josh has kind of mastered his technique to get really clean finished concrete in a relatively simple process. So I'm really gonna try to document that very thoroughly, because that's probably gonna be one of the coolest things that we're able to deliver as far as technically how to make something beautiful. Because a lot of this stuff, we're jack of all trades. We're doing a little framing one day, helping the electricians the next day, putting insulation in the wall the next day, and we can do all of those things, but never would I hunker down and say this is the best way or most efficient way to do any of this stuff. I mean, even the framing alone, the amount of effort that went into just screwing through that 16 gauge material was obnoxious, and I'm sure there are better ways to do it. But we just did the best that we could, switching from one fastener to another, one tip to another, until we finally got a system where the screws were actually running in without too much stress. I do have one tip on that. If you're doing any metal framing, I highly suggest, I don't have one. Oh, I do have one on me. Get yourself a pair of these vice grip clamps with this little tight nose on the end of it. You can suck those framing members together and hold them tight. Otherwise, when one screw pushes into another piece of metal, it wants to bend it out as opposed to sink through it. So I guess we do have some pretty useful tips from having run a few thousand screws in this place, but we don't do it every day, so we're not experts at it, though we can get it done functionally. Yeah, we've had to button up a couple small details, like we're not using this chase that's running up to the roof, so we're gonna have to frame that in, get it ready for drywall. We're gonna insulate it before we pack it all in. There's a couple pieces of sheetrock we have to repair up there. And then we have, after the bar is all finished and built out, we have to finish the floor up here on the mezzanine. That's gonna be a big process because we want to ensure that we're not building it up too much so that our stair system still comes out right, but is sturdy enough that you're not going to hear squeaks or you're not going to feel any sort of bouncing or deflection. Because right now the panels are rigid enough that we have no problem running, the 1,000-pound transformer up here, and there was no issue at all. But every layer that you add, you want to use it to add structural support. So we're going to be doing that throughout this area. We're going to be gluing and screwing every one of these sheets of 3/4 inch plywood to create a substrate for us that's useful to then go over the top with our finished flooring. So that's going to be a big job. We're also adding insulation down in the ribs, and probably the most difficult technical aspect of it, which I don't know if I really documented it well doing the OSB and this utility closet area, but we don't want a bunch of fasteners sticking down into the pan deck, which is a finished surface for us. So we're having to play a little bit of a game where we're marking where the sheets are going to go, we're punching holes, we're applying the glue, and then we're weighting down the sheet from the top, and then we go underneath and we use the 3/4 inch fasteners up into the sheeting so that it doesn't poke out, it has enough bite. The glue is really going to do the vast majority of the holding, but those screws are going to act as clamps to really compress the sheets of plywood down to the metal pan deck and create a strong connection. But that's the only way to get that sort of strength and effect without going straight through and then just having 1,000 visible threaded fasteners coming down into our finished ceiling downstairs. So if we want to maintain that aesthetic, this is one of the things that we're going to have to do to make sure that it stays looking really nice, and not industrial to the point of looking careless and sloppy. Other than that, we've got signage ordered, and that's going to be coming soon. That's going to be kind of a challenge, one of the biggest challenges for this location. I think the first video I did, we talked about it, but there's not any really great angle to capture the eyes of folks coming this way on Beckley or coming the other way, because we're right in this little, what do you call that, an obtuse angle. And also the little road that runs next to our space is going to be a city road that connects to the bridge up to Singleton. So all these trees are kind of in the way of our signage, but since it's a city easement, they're by code required. So we've had to dance around a little bit. We're trying to figure out if we can get a variance to remove at least one tree so we can put the signage right where we want it. But we're kind of having to overcompensate and get extra signage to make sure that we're visible to traffic coming this way and traffic coming this way, because it's a lot of traffic. If we just have good signs and good coffee, this place will be full. It's a ton of traffic. We just need to be able to capture it. So that's a big challenge, but working with the sign guy, same guy we used at the previous shop, he's excellent, and he's putting the plans together that we can submit to the city. Also, one of the last trades that's gonna have to come through is the sprinklers and the alarm company. So the fire suppression is a big deal in commercial spaces. We kind of built to optimize for what's in place, so we don't have to do much. But all these pipes that are on the ceiling do have to run down under the mezzanine. We have to get fire suppression into our 10-foot vent hood that's going to be above the equipment. Luckily, that's already going to be plumbed in, and we just have to connect to it. As well as our conference room in the back. That's going to need to be, it's going to have fire sprinklers in it as well. So they came out, they are getting an estimate together, and then they're doing a submittal to the city. That's actually going to delay us because they said it's at best 6 weeks to turn around and get a permit. So a lot of the work at this phase has been not only doing the work, but so much material management, going to get the right stuff, realizing you've run out of one thing even though you thought you ordered too much. So I'm gonna have some good footage of me just at material supply houses picking up material. I love that. I love seeing the big equipment roll. Also have some footage of running to the big recycling area around here in Dallas and seeing those big machines moving around all that scrap metal. That's also really cool to me, so hopefully you enjoy a little bit of that. But everything is moving along well and smoothly, though I do fear a delay in opening because of some of the final permitting stuff. We're really on track to get done in short order. It's cool to see all the progress sort of culminating and becoming more and more of a coffee shop. We're about to start ordering doors, putting doors in, all the finishing details are about to start. And we can't wait. I can't wait to see the walls in here. I can't wait to serve my first coffee, and we're already beginning to hire and get marketing and stuff in order for launch. So it's all happening fast. It looks like it was never going to happen, and then you're in the heat of construction and it's just one stud after another, and then every once in a while you get to stand back and look at how much progress has happened. So we're very grateful so far. Again, everybody's been safe, no one's been injured. We have had a couple scrapes, but overall everything's running smoothly. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoy this. Remember to like, share, subscribe, all the yada yada yadas. Thanks. We'll see you on the next one.